Welcome to the Pencil Bob channel. I hope you enjoy my stories. Please like and subscribe, and hit that notification icon so you never miss out. Now on with the stories.
It all started when my parents passed away and left me their rental property. It's a nice little house, nothing fancy, but it's got character. The funny thing is, it's been there longer than the fancy neighborhood next door. You know, one of those places with manicured lawns and cookie-cutter houses. Yeah, that kind. Anyway, when I inherited the place, I decided it was time for a change. I'd been renting an apartment in the city, but the idea of having my own house with a yard and everything was too good to pass up. Plus, it felt like a way to keep my parents' memory alive, you know. So I took some time off work and started renovating the place. It needed a lot of work. New paint, some updated appliances, that sort of thing. But the biggest change was the fencing. See, the property has 3 entrances, and I wanted to make sure they were all secure. Call me paranoid, but I've watched too many true crime shows not to be a little cautious. We installed these nice wooden gates at each entrance. Nothing too fancy, just solid and practical. The front gate even had a lock, which made me feel pretty good about security. It turns out that those gates would be the start of all my troubles. So we finish up the renovations and I move in. It's great, you know. I'm feeling all adult-like with my own house and everything. I'm thinking about maybe getting a dog now that I have a yard. Life is good. Then, about a month after I moved in, I'm in the backyard just enjoying the sunshine when I hear this creaking sound. I look up and there's this old guy, must be in his 60s at least, opening my back gate like he owns the place. Now, I'm not usually confrontational, but come on, who just walks into someone's yard uninvited? So I stand up, trying to look more confident than I feel, and ask, "Can I help you?" The guy, let's call him Boomer Bob because that's exactly what he reminded me of, just smiles this condescending smile and says, "Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm here to give you your HOA welcome packet." I'm confused for a second. Then I remember what my parents had told me years ago. "Oh, thanks," I say, trying to be polite. "But we're not actually part of the HOA. This property was here before your neighborhood was built." Boomer Bob's smile falters for a second, then comes back, even more patronizing than before. No, he says like he's talking to a child. "You're part of the HOA. My property is right next door, so you're included." I take a deep breath, reminding myself to stay calm. "I appreciate you coming by," I say, "but I can assure you we're not part of the HOA. My parents owned this place for years, and it's never been part of your neighborhood." Boomer Bob's face starts to turn red. "That's not possible," he huffs. "You have to be part of the HOA. I'm starting to get irritated now." "Look," I say, trying to keep my voice level, "I've told you twice now, we're not part of your HOA, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't come onto my property without permission in the future." You'd think I'd just insulted his mother or something. Boomer Bob puffs up like an angry rooster. "I didn't see any no trespassing signs," he scoffs. "I can do what I want at this point. I'm done being nice. Please leave my property," I say as firmly as I can. "Now," Boomer Bob glares at me for a moment, then turns and stomps off, muttering under his breath. I watch him go, feeling a mix of relief and annoyance. As soon as he's out of sight, I go inside and start researching security cameras. Something tells me this isn't over. The next day, I'm out bright and early installing locks on all the gates. I also put up some no trespassing signs, just to be safe. I mean, who knows what Boomer Bob might try next? Life goes back to normal for a few days. I'm settling into my new home, getting to know the layout of the house, figuring out which floorboards creak. All of them, it seems like. I'm even thinking about having a housewarming party, inviting some friends over to check out the place. Then one day I go to check the mail, and there it is. A letter from the HOA. I open it up, and sure enough, it's a violation notice. Apparently, my grass is too long, my house color isn't approved, and my new gates are not in keeping with the neighborhood aesthetic. I'm annoyed, but I figure it's just a misunderstanding. I'll call them, explain the situation, and that'll be the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. Over the next few weeks, I get 4 more violation notices. Each one lists more and more ridiculous infractions. One of them even mentions the color of the curtains in my bedroom. How they know what color my bedroom curtains are, I have no idea, but it's starting to creep me out. The 5th notice is the last straw. It threatens eviction if I don't comply with their rules. Eviction from a house I own. I'm angry as I dial the number on the letter. A woman answers, her voice sickly sweet. "Hello, Sunnyside HOA, how can I help you?" I take a deep breath, trying to keep my cool. "Hi, I'm calling about these violation notices I've been receiving. There's been a mistake. I'm not part of your HOA." There's a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh," the woman says, sounding confused. But the HOA president said you were. He's the one who's been reporting the violations. I resist the urge to bang my head against the wall. Well, he's mistaken, I say. This property has been here since before your neighborhood was built. It's never been part of the HOA. Oh dear, the woman says, sounding genuinely concerned. Well, if you can prove that, we'll waive all the fines and leave you alone. Why don't you bring your paperwork to our next meeting? I agree, thanking her for her help. As I hang up, I'm feeling a mix of relief and dread. Relief that there might be an end to this nonsense, but dread at the thought of facing Boomer Bob again. The next HOA meeting is in a week, so I spend my evenings digging through the paperwork my parents left behind. I find the original deed to the property, dated well before the HOA was established. I also find letters from previous years where my parents had to deal with similar issues. It seems like every few years, some new HOA board would try to claim our property. Finally, the day of the meeting arrives. I dress in my nicest adulting clothes, a button-up shirt and khakis, and head over to the community center. As I walk in, I can feel eyes on me. Clearly, word has spread about the troublemaker who won't follow the rules. The meeting starts, and it's mind-numbingly boring. They discuss things like the color of the community mailboxes, and whether or not to allow bird feeders. I'm starting to zone out when suddenly I hear my name. And now, the HOA president says, we have a special item on the agenda. It seems we have a new resident who's refusing to comply with our rules. I stand up, clutching my folder of documents. Actually, I say, trying to keep my voice steady, I'm here to prove that I'm not part of your HOA at all. The room erupts in murmurs. I can see Boomer Bob in the corner, his face turning that angry shade of red again. I walk to the front of the room and start laying out my evidence. As you can see, I say, pointing to the dates on the documents, my property predates your neighborhood by several decades. It's never been part of the HOA, and it's not subject to your rules. The HOA board members lean in, examining the papers. They whisper among themselves, nodding and pointing. I'm starting to feel hopeful. Maybe this will be the end of it. Then Boomer Bob stands up. This is ridiculous, he shouts. It doesn't matter when the house was built. They're in our neighborhood now, so they need to follow our rules. I turn to face him, trying to keep my cool. That's not how it works, I say. My property isn't part of your development. We don't benefit from your amenities, and we're not subject to your rules. Boomer Bob is practically shaking with rage now. You can't just do whatever you want, he yells. You put up those gates and fix the fence. Now I can't go where I want on my walks. I'm stunned for a moment. Is he seriously complaining that he can't trespass on my property anymore? And those gates, he continues, his face getting redder by the second, they stop my family from taking a shortcut to the pool, and don't even get me started on your backyard. It's full of things I don't want to see from my balcony. I can't believe what I'm hearing. This guy thinks he has the right to walk through my property, to dictate what I can have in my own backyard, and then it hits me. The violation notices about things in my backyard. He's been spying on me from his balcony. And those trees, Boomer Bob is on a roll now. And that new fence, I can't see your entire property anymore. The room is dead silent. Everyone is staring at Boomer Bob in shock. Even his wife looks mortified. Finally, one of the board members clears his throat. Bob, he says gently, I think you need to calm down. Let's take a break. Two other men get up and lead Boomer Bob out of the room. He's still ranting about fences and trees as the door closes behind him. The head of the HOA turns to me, looking embarrassed. I'm so sorry about this, she says. We've reviewed your documents, and it's clear that your property is indeed separate from our HOA. We'll make sure you don't receive any more violation notices. A nod, still a bit shell-shocked from Boomer Bob's outburst. Thank you, I manage to say. I appreciate that. As I leave the meeting, I can hear raised voices coming from the room where they took Boomer Bob. I don't stick around to find out what's happening. I've had enough drama for one day. In the weeks that follow, things quiet down. I don't get any more violation notices, and I don't see Boomer Bob lurking around my property. I even catch a glimpse of him one day, walking on the sidewalk like a normal person instead of cutting through my yard. Looking back on it all, I can't help but laugh. It's amazing how entitled some people can be, thinking they have the right to control what others do with their own property. I guess some folks just can't handle change, especially when it interferes with their routine. But you know what? I'm kind of glad it all happened. It forced me to learn more about my property's history, and it helped me stand up for myself. Plus, it's a great story to tell at parties. So here I am, living in my parents' old rental property, with my secure gates and my privacy fence and my backyard full of whatever I want. And every time I look out at those trees that block Boomer Bob's view, I can't help but smile. Life's funny sometimes, isn't it? You think you're just moving into a new house and suddenly you're in the middle of a neighborhood soap opera. But hey, that's what makes life interesting, right? And let me tell you, I've got plenty more stories about life in this quirky little corner of the world. But those are tales for another day. For now, I'm just enjoying my home, my yard, and most of all, my peace and quiet. And if I ever decide to move, well, let's just say I'll be very, very careful about checking for HOAs before I buy. Some lessons you only need to learn once. When I purchased my home many years ago, as a new construction, I had written into our sales contract that we would not and could not be entered into a neighborhood HOA unless we personally agreed. We only have a yearly cost for upkeep of our community retention pond and a contract for that cost. It's like $30 a year. So like a year later, few months after the house is built, a boomer wanted to change our retention pond association into a full HOA, electing himself as de facto president for life. I brought a lawyer to the one and only meeting of our retention pond association, showed my home contracts to the builder lawyer, forced all the residents to a vote that no, they don't want this boomer jackass ruling their neighborhood. The builder lawyer was only there to draw up our pond stuff, and this boomer was a huge ass to her. The whole meeting, she was relieved when I pushed back. The look on this dude's and his wife's face when I showed them that even if he made a stupid HOA, I wouldn't have to join it, was so satisfying. He was purple with rage and stormed out, leaving his wife to apologize for his outburst. He had a full-on tantrum, banging on chairs and tables and screaming at me. All the other residents ended up asking my lawyer and the builder's lawyer to draw up a rider to amend their building contracts to be like mine. It's been nearly 20 years, and this dude still curses at me anytime he sees me, which is often since he lives like 3 doors down, lol. I'm proud to have stopped his little fiefdom from starting.
I would like to thank you for watching the video to the end. To encourage us to make more videos, please like, subscribe, comment, as well as share. Check out this other video if you haven't already.